Our and open the public meeting. I'm going to close our executive session and open our public meeting. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday, April 15th Port Commission meeting for the Port of Bellingham. And we'll start this with a roll call. Commissioner Briscoe, can you hear us? Commissioner Shepard?
Yes, I'm present.
And Commissioner Bell is present. We'll wait for Commissioner Briscoe to reestablish connection. In the meantime, I'm going to read the advisory committee meetings. The Marine Advisory Committee meeting is held April 17th at 6 p.m., which is 2 days from now, here in the Harbor Center. It's in person only. Again, the Marine Advisory Committee, April 17th, 6 p.m. here in the Harbor Center chambers. The Bellingham International Airport Advisory Committee, our BIAC, is on May 13th at 4 p.m., a couple weeks away. That's available by Zoom. You can go to our website and find the link for that. And it is in person and in Zoom. You can either show up at the BIAC building at 4 p.m. or log in to the Zoom. And Commissioner Briscoe, are you online? Commissioner Briscoe, Earth to Bobby. So we're going to go forward, since you can hear us, assuming that you are checked in and with our public comment period. Anybody wishing to speak before the commission, we reserve about 3 minutes each. We've got a list here. Anybody else wishing to can just come up to the microphone when you're ready. And we'll start with Carly James.
Hello, commissioners. I'm just going to move this down. There we go. My name's Carly James. I'm with the Granary Commercial Tenant Collective. We spoke at the last meeting, and I want to thank you for that conversation. And on behalf of the collective, we appreciate that the port recognizes our challenge regarding insufficient parking at the waterfront. We appreciate that the port acknowledged it has a role in addressing that challenge, and we're grateful for your willingness to work with us as good neighbors. So at the last meeting, you posed some questions that I didn't have immediate answers for, so I did want to return and address some of that. One of the questions that was asked was, how many spots do we need? So I did a little bit of research, and there's currently an interim parking ordinance eliminating the minimum parking requirement for development. So looking at the regulation, that code would mean no parking is required. Looking at the code prior to that, and then depending on which use calculation you use, I calculated 175 to 225 spots would be needed to serve. 175 to 225 spots. And that was just an approximate calculation with what I could find of the square footage of the granary, and then using the most general business market use calculation. It's like, I didn't write down the calculation, I'm sorry, but it was like maybe 250 or 350 square feet per spot. I also spoke with other members of the collective and other tenants at the building, and the numbers that I got were minimum 100 spots up to 140 spots. So there's a bunch of information for you. Let's see. I also was asked if we had reached out to Harcourt about being able to park under the new condos. I did do that. The answer is no. Those spots are allocated to tenants of those buildings, so that isn't going to be an option for us. I did speak with Harcourt about, this idea that was presented to us when we were all looking at the granary space about building a permanent lot across the street. I did actually get the plans from them. Plans do exist to build that lot. I was told that they would start building that lot tomorrow if they could. And so I don't know the ins and outs of what is going on, why that's not happening, but they seemed very open to revisiting that and wanting to make that happen for all of us. I also spoke to them about what we came to you a couple weeks ago about the temporary lot, and they are willing to go in on the expense of that lot, as are the tenants of the granary. We're willing to pay a fee to make that happen. We're also working on alternative transportation incentives, so ways to get people down to the area, not in cars, biking, walking. So we're talking about that with Harcourt and amongst ourselves at the granary. I do have a new question for you, and that is, you mentioned that the current lot was built 50-50, and Harcourt built half, paid for half, Port paid for half, something along those lines. I might not be getting that exactly right. So you did say that Harcourt had the right to half of the spaces there. So what we wanted to ask was, the events that go on down in that area, close that lot off 100% to us. I did bring a map, if you'd like it, of the Tune-Up Festival, how they're using that lot entirely. So I just wanted to throw that out if that's a conversation we could have where when events are happening, we still have access to our half of the lot. And then lastly, you said that you wanted to help us, but there has to be give everywhere. And so I just, I wanted to come and say, I hope that you can see that we're willing to do what it takes, and we appreciate your help, and we want to be good neighbors too. Thank you.
Commissioner Bell, if I can just make a correction on the agenda and what was announced for the committee meetings. The BIAC meeting is actually meeting on April 17th at 6 p.m., which is listed here as the MAC on April 17th. And then the MAC will be meeting on May 13th at 6 p.m. I'm sorry, and the BIAC meets on April 17th at 4 p.m. So we had a typo in there. We got those mixed up. So again, BIAC at this Thursday, April 17th at 4 p.m. And MAC will be May 13th at 6 p.m.
And again, go to the website if you have
Ken,
any.
I'm present here. I can hear now.
Okay, we can hear you as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a smart-ass remark that I'll refrain from. Okay, Dan Tucker.
Imagine that.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dan Tucker, Whatcom Working Waterfront Coalition. This is regarding the item on the agenda for the lease of the City Mac building, and I just wanted to say that while the coalition does not advocate for individual or specific members, we do highly encourage the port to make use of that space as a marine trades area, and that would include something like a fish market or buying and selling of fish in that space, as well as any of the other ideas that have come along in regards to that proposal. We would love to see something like that in that space. And I think it would make a great use for it. It would bring more people down to the waterfront, promote the consumption of seafood, which is something we need to do more of. And I would also like to say that in regards to existing programs like Dockside Market, I think it would have the potential to work in collaboration with those, as well as to even boost and highlight those. So we would like to see a space where those things can exist down on the waterfront. The City Mac building offers that potential space.
Thank you, Dan. Dave Branch.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. We were able to talk with Andy there, Peterson, and answer some of our questions.
So, we can pass our time to somebody else.
You want to tell a joke?
Don't give him the opportunity, please.
Jennifer, you've also answered your question.
Yeah, Andy snagged us.
Andy, I love you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak before the commission? Now is the open session and the time. Oh, here's an old friend.
Yes, I'm back. Afternoon, Commissioners. Ryan Davis, Legato Maritime, local captain. Previously, I think I last spoke with y'all in January about my ship, the Mokuahi, 110 foot by 22 foot. We withdrew our proposal for moorage that y'all had over in Squalicum Harbor because we were considering other options. Be reaching out to you guys individually about that. But as an aside, I have some good news for you guys, which is representative of everything in the marine trades. My company, in work with the Core Plus Maritime and Northwest Maritime Center, we've been working closely with the representatives down in Olympia, speaking to HB 1167, which is the directing of the statewide Career and Technical Education Task Force to consider educational opportunities for careers in maritime professions. That has passed the House and officially passed the Senate and is up for signature to the governor. So this will open up grants and things for the maritime trades, but I was the only one from Whatcom County to go down and speak to the bill, but just wanted to get it on the public record. But thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Anyone else?
Thanks for spending the time to go down there. Appreciate it.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. We'll move to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through H.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
No. Do you have any comments? You're jumping the gun. Commissioner Shepard?
Two questions. One on D, I was just curious, it was about the electric vehicle charging. Where are those going to be located?
Hi, my name's Adrienne Douglas Scott. I'm the Sustainability Program Manager here at the Port. This is the first of 4 in this round of installations, and this first one that is now hopefully up and running with your approval here is over right beside the Fisherman's Pavilion. So you go down all the way towards Swanage Park, and it's right in the corner beside the Fisherman's Pavilion. The next ones, and I'm not sure exactly what order they'll be in yet, there'll be one close to Gate 3, Bella Marina. It'll be right in the parking lot there. There'll be one out in our parking lot here at 1801 Rotor, our Harbor Center building, and the 4th one will be in Blaine, just outside our offices up there.
Okay. And do we have a operator for these similar to the one, I know we have one at the ferry terminal currently from Liberty, Hydra?
It's a different one. So these ones are through ChargePoint,
ChargePoint.
which is consistent with what the city of Bellingham has.
Okay. Good. And we're modeling City of Bellingham rates on these?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. My other question was for G about the Alaska ferry. I see this goes through September of '25. Is that as long as our lease with Alaska Marine Highway System goes?
That's correct. We did a 1-year extension in September of 2024. That goes through September of 2025.
Are we in conversation with them about getting past September? September is going to be here relatively quickly, and these guys are a real important tenant of ours. I would love to see us get to a point where we have a longer lease.
Yeah, we're trying to get a longer lease with them. We went up there last year, and they just wanted to do a 1-year deal where they worked through some state budgeting issues. But yeah, we are in discussions. We're trying to get a longer lease.
Okay, well, we'll keep trying.
And the budget issues have not gone away. Doesn't bode well.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Commissioner Briscoe, now you can vote.
Yes.
Mr. Shepard?
Also, yes.
Mr. Bell is a yes. Okay, first presentation of the night. First quarter financials.
We forgot to introduce some new hires, so if we can do that. We've got 2 new hires we'd like to introduce to you today. We have Mr. David Yoder and Mr. Daniel Ray, both are security specialists. Ryan's going to introduce them.
Good evening. Ryan Rockham, Security Manager for the Port here. We are excited to bring on 2 new security specialists, Daniel Ray and Dave Yoder. Dan is a Marine Corps veteran. He comes to the Port with previous experience as an EMT with Northwest Ambulance. He was a security officer at Peace Health here in Bellingham. and most recently is a plainclothes armed security officer with At Risk International. Dan holds an associate's degree from Olympic College. He's an excellent communicator. He has great de-escalation skills, and he's going to be a great addition to our port family. He lives locally in Bellingham. Dave Yoder comes to us most recently from Skagit Transit Authority, where he was an operations supervisor. He's a U.S. Army veteran who served as a military police officer. He holds an associate degree in criminal justice from Fullerton Community College, and he worked for 10 years as a police officer in Anaheim, California, before relocating with his family to Washington. Fun fact about Dave, he has owned and operated 3 small businesses over the last 23 years, 2 in Anacortes, which one was the Brown Lantern, and the other one was the Union Tavern, Local 902, and also the Church Key Pub in Edmonds. And Dave continues to reside with his family in Anacortes. So, thank you.
Can you gentlemen raise your hands? Are they in the room?
No, sir, they're not.
No, okay. All right, first quarter financials, Tamara?
Hi, Commissioners. Tamara Sobczak, CFO. I do have the first quarter financials for you, and just a reminder of the purpose is to discuss any large deviations from the budget. Spoiler alert, there aren't many, which is good news. So we'll just jump right into it. The first 3 months of the year, we had revenues of $14.5 million compared to last year of $10.9 million. The large change there is for non-operating revenues, and that was the sale of Sumas land, as well as a settlement for an environmental cleanup site that we had. But the operating was fairly similar to first quarter last year. Looking at the expenses, again, very, very similar to last year, and we'll dive into these division by division. Looking at the airport, we budgeted pretty conservatively on revenues especially. We came in just a little bit above budget, but a little below where we were last year, but as expected. The marinas, again, continued to be high occupancy, and so they came in very steady revenues, very steady expenses, even a little bit low on their costs so far. Looking at the shipping terminal, we, again, budgeted very conservatively because of that project out there. We knew that we weren't going to have many revenues this year, this time of year. However, that little blip you see there is the FOSS. They pay an annual instead of a monthly, so that's why the little blip, so that'll even out throughout the year. The cruise terminal, again, just a steady stream, steady schedule. Revenues and expenses very similar to prior year. We did have a little bit of a large expense in first quarter, and that was because we had a big repair to our lineal moorage system.
Do you know if Drew's Restaurant is doing fairly well out there? Are they keeping their? I've been out there a couple of times.
Talking about the fish, Fairhaven.
The cruise terminal?
Yeah, his fish and chip shop, yeah. When I talked to Drew, he's happy with the operations. He thinks it could do better, but it's doing as good as he's thought it would, yeah.
It's a good amenity, I think, and I just wanted to make sure he was doing okay.
Looking at real estate, again, high occupancy. Our tenants are still doing well. We are keeping an eye on those that may have some adverse effect from funding, you know, if they're federal or state programs, but we've got our eye on that and we're watching them closely. At the waterfront, revenues and expenses, well, revenues, you know, it's pretty slow right down there right now. Expenses were a little high, and that's mainly due to the legal expenses that we're incurring right now. And then other public, very little revenues this time of year. Expenses are, you know, economic development, community connections. We'll see those even out as we do our scheduled studies. And then overhead is just, overhead is overhead. It is what it is, very stable. All that leads to a strong balance sheet. The first 3 months, we did increase our net assets, which is the strength of the port, from $283 million to $285 million. And then just a quick update on our investments. We have $10 million in those federal and municipal securities, earning about 2.75%, which is a little bit less than what we're getting in the LGIP, but the LGIP is so volatile. But they're still earning a 4.4%. That was in March, our latest. So moving on to our quarterly statistical updates, public records requests, we've had 26 in the first quarter. Happy to note, none of those are considered major requests, which would be, monthly installments of huge amounts of records, and we only have 4 of those outstanding so far. Stormwater program, this is also good news. Both permits were within permit limits, the sample results. No exceedances for either one of them. And safety report, 0 injuries or illnesses for the first quarter. So overall, good reports. We're doing as expected and hanging in there. Any questions on any of that? Anything you'd like to see different, more information on next time?
Commissioner Shepard?
Nope, I think it was good. I think we just want to keep watching any of our federal tenants and their capacity for maintaining rent and their obligations to us with the uncertainty, putting that nicely, from the federal government.
Yeah.
Currently.
Thank you.
Is our biggest federal tenant still the Coast Guard?
I believe
Just sorry for making
Sorry,
you
I
have that
don't-
off the top of your head, but
Hi, Elliot Smith, I'm the real estate director at the port. The largest real estate tenant is Homeland Security at the airport. We have some other large tenants at the cruise terminal, but they also pay some operating expenses that are listed separately from rent, but those are our largest.
Commissioner
Coast
Briscoe?
Guard, is the Coast Guard one of our tenants there,
Coast Guard is a tenant in Fairhaven, yes.
but not in Squalicum?
No, Squalicum, they own their station there.
Own that
Yeah.
property fully.
Yep.
And Homeland Security's got that whole building almost.
Well, Homeland Security's in a couple different locations. They've got a building out at the airport that is near the Emergency Operations Center there across from Sound Beverage. They also have several hangars at the airport that they keep equipment in. Another location here somewhere too. Maybe down at Bellwether, Homeland
They're
Security.
down at Bellwether.
Yeah. So they're scattered all around, along with Customs and Border Protection as well.
Any questions, Commissioner Briscoe?
No.
Then I have none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Andy Peterson. This is a Blaine Harbor presentation.
Yeah. Good evening, Commissioners. Andy Peterson, Blaine Harbor Master. I'm just here this evening to provide an update to some questions that came up at the last commission meeting on a couple of items. And then I can answer any other questions that you folks might have this evening about operations up at Blaine Harbor. The first one that we wanted to talk about, I think, was pressure washing. I think that came up as a question last time. So Blaine Harbor, I ran the calculations this morning. We're a little bit north of 130,000 square feet of floats in the water. And what we've been trying to do for the past 10 years is run through a cycle of trying to get one of the 3 docks pressure washed every year. And during COVID, we got off cycle a little bit when we had some staff reductions during the summertime. I should back up. Typically, the pressure washing is done in the spring or summer. We don't do it in the fall or winter. If we have a chance of freezing overnight, we could have a slip and fall potential left on the dock. So we focus towards the warmer months. And so through this catch-up process here, we are... last summer, I think we got almost all of Gate 1 done. And we're realizing that just with all the administration and other operations tasks we have, that it's hard to dedicate 2 staff people to pressure washing to get it done. So what we're looking at this year is when we bring our summer dock attendant on, we're actually going to work with the summer dock attendant to transition some of that workload to them, so we can still keep 2 staff people in the office answering phone calls, helping customers, and get some of this outside work done at the same time. So we're pretty confident. We have a returning, we're blessed to have a returning summer dock attendant this year, so this person's fully aware of the harbor operations, and so we're looking forward to hitting the ground running with this position again this year. We anticipate they'll probably be starting the 1st of May, so that works good with us as far as getting some of this outside work done. I think one of the other questions that came up was about seagulls. And so beautiful Blaine is blessed with a unique situation where we're straddled on either side by mud flats. And a good chunk of the day, those mud flats are a huge attraction to our wildlife. And so we're smack dab in the middle of that. In our breakwater, typically those birds like to hang out on our breakwater where they're safe from predators, and they also like our web house roofs. That seems to be another favorite spot for the seagulls. And of course, I should say seagulls and cormorants. The new one is the cormorants, and those 2 particular birds are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918. So there's very little that can be done as far as harassing the birds, or we certainly, those birds their nests and the eggs are protected, so there's certainly not a lot we can do there. We have toyed with the idea. I made an observation a few years ago that the seagulls don't like to sit underneath the cottonwood trees where the eagle likes to sit. Smart birds. So we have toyed with the idea of trying to put up some sort of eagle perch further out on the breakwater, see if we can encourage the eagle to sit out there a little bit more often, and maybe scoot the seagulls a little bit further out towards the west, towards the harbor entrance. We haven't gotten there yet. Installing a bird perch on a rubble mound breakwater isn't structurally, it's not the easiest thing to do, to permit and move a bunch of concrete out there to put a 20-foot pole out there. But it's something that we have been looking into, and we're hopeful that maybe if we can get the eagle out there, that it might just over time encourage the birds not to roost there. And
I would have never thought seagulls were a protected species, but I'm fact-checking you, and it does say here that it's illegal to pursue, hunt, take, capture, kill, or sell migratory birds, including seagulls. I'm a little bit astounded by that fact, but I can maybe, cormorants, yeah, I could see where they fit in, but the seagulls are a little surprising to me.
Right. So, and as a matter of fact, our staff goes to great length in the springtime, early summer, when the seagulls are starting to nest. We have our security specialists and our harbor staff are very hyper aware of where those birds are starting to nest, because once they lay an egg in the nest, then we're stuck with the nests until the birds are hatched and the hatchlings are safe to be on their own. So we do what we can before we cross that threshold to try to encourage the birds maybe to find a better place to build the nest. Otherwise, we're stuck with the nest and babies there, and they can be a little messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're up there all the time. The gentleman who was here at our last commission meeting felt pretty strongly that the amount of bird poop was, degrading the quality of the harbor and people's experience coming in and out of the harbor. I'm hearing there's not a ton of options for us for deterring them from the breakwater.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. For some folks, seagulls I wouldn't disagree with that it can have an impact on folks that like to wash their boats or keep their boat clean, or in the winter, in the middle of summer when it gets warm and you get a little southerly breeze, some of the fragrance coming off the breakwater can be a little strong.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's, yeah, they're, like I said, we're looking at the Eagle perch as maybe being kind of a good, and I'm trying to think of the word, an option to see if we can be good environmental stewards and maybe just encourage the birds not to be so at ease where we all want to recreate.
Yeah. Do we get the same with osprey? Or is it just the eagles?
It seems to be the eagles that are the ones that cruise the strip. As a matter of fact, just the other day when on my way home, there were, I think I counted 22 eagles on the south end of the bay. So they've come back, and it's pretty encouraging actually to see to be able to be that close to the wildlife and, you know, this close to civilization, I-5, and have that right out our back door is pretty special.
Okay.
You can't harass the seagulls, but you can employ an eagle to harass.
The seagull, maybe. We're not using the word harass. This is.
Hey, Andy, I got a question for you.
Oh, Bob.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Bob.
Okay. Hey, the city building that they have over there where the sewer plant is, didn't they have some noise squawkers or something on it?
Yes. Yes,
Did they work?
They did have some noise squawkers. They had, I believe, mixed results with moving the birds along and quite a few complaints from park goers
Okay.
from the
And,
community.
Have you looked into being able to drill and fasten into that big riprap rock out there?
For a perch.
Yes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the facilities director, Alex Hildreth, and I were just out on the Sawtooth Pier yesterday talking about that.
Okay.
Looking at another option. We were actually going to look and see if we had a retired aluminum light pole or something that wasn't quite so heavy that we could mount out there with a cross brace and see if we could put a 2x4 or something to get the seagull, or the eagle to sit up there.
Right. Okay. I was just curious if that noisemaker ever worked out.
One of our neighboring marinas employed a propane cannon to see if they could scare the birds, encourage them to move. But we received, even though we weren't operating it, we received quite a bit of commentary about the cannon being disruptive. So I think we would probably choose not to go that route. It'd be something similar you might find at an airport or something like that to keep the runway clear.
Okay. Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
I think there was one more topic I wanted to touch on. Derelict vessels, yeah, that was the other one that we wanted to touch base on. So the Blaine Harbor for the last couple of years now hasn't had a boat lift, and so the port's taken over operation cleanup of the boatyard up there. We recently did a major overhaul conducted by Ports Facilities team on our travel lift, so we've gotten it recertified. Harbor staff just recently completed some training to operate the travel lift. So last commission meeting, while you folks were down here, we were up in Blaine crunching 3 boats, well, disposing of 3 boats. So now that we have access to the travel lift and we're trained up, we're moving on getting some of those boats out of the water. We just did one this morning, a 40-foot Faro cement boat this morning was recycled. And then next week, we've got plans on removing a 42-footer fiberglass boat and getting that one out of the water. So we're all pretty excited to have access to that yard so we can start getting through some of the backlog.
Andy, about how many boats would you say are on the backlog?
Right now, I think we've got 8 left to go, yeah. And those
They're
boats,
currently in the water?
yeah, those boats go from 25 feet to 38 feet, except for the 42-footer, so, yeah. And we've some of those haven't been in the water for the last 2, and we've accumulated some that were impounded due to non-payment of moorage and didn't sell at auction. So we've added to that list since 2 years ago.
And I think at the last meeting, I asked about our program here that I think Tiffany has helped to
Right.
implement for checking for registration.
Yes,
And we're
right.
doing that in both harbors.
Absolutely, yep, we are, yep.
Have any boats kind of been designated for, as derelict because of that program? Or
No, not through that program, no.
so those folks come into compliance if flagged for being out of compliance and
Right.
continue to keep the boat in the harbor.
Yeah, the boats that we have typically were non-payment. Somebody that's had the boat for example, would be someone that's had the boat for 10 years and it's just grown out of boating or gotten to the point where they can't boat anymore. And so, so then mortgage quits getting, they quit paying mortgage on the boat and then we take it back, so. We do leverage the DNR's vessel turn-in program. We've actually, just off the top of my head, I think we've sent 3 boaters, How do we make this stop? Okay, there we go. I think through the DNR, we've directed boaters to the DNR program. I think there's been at least 3 of them, the voluntary turn-in program. So we're actually trying to do that before they get, because we know how much of a pain in the butt those things can be once the port takes them over. So we've really encouraged people to reach out to the program, and it's been very useful, so.
So we can, the equivalent of leaving a note on somebody's windshield
Right.
when we think it qualifies.
Right. And so our harbor staff, we found just doing the outreach to the customers, sometimes just printing out the documents or having them fill out the documents, then return them to us and helping them get the paperwork faxed in, goes a long ways towards getting some movement on getting rid of an eyesore or something that does. A lot of times people just don't know what to do with them anymore. They've had the boat for 10 years and it's hard for them to let go of it. They've got a lot of emotion and identity tied up in the boat. And then the other part is they just don't know what to do. So,
Well, I think you share our interest in moving boats that don't need to be in the harbor anymore, don't belong in the harbor anymore, to free up space on that wait list, which exists for our properties. And we continue to want to try and move boats along that shouldn't be in the harbor anymore.
right. And part of that is trying to make sure that at the end of that boat's life, we're not just passing it on for free or for $1 to somebody else if it doesn't need to be in the water anymore. We want it out so it doesn't become a problem for the DNR or a property owner along the water or a park or something like that. So, we do what we can to try to make sure that when those boats are worn out and tired, unfortunately, just making sure they don't become a problem somewhere else.
I have another question.
Commissioner Briscoe, yes.
Hey, Andy, I'd like to circle back around to pressure washing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't just take a pressure washer down there and start washing the docks. That's why I believe Tiffany came up with an enclosed system, a loop system we use.
Yeah, correct. We try to be good environmental stewards, and we are certified clean marina, so we're not putting that back into the water. Our facilities director, Alex Hildreth, helped us find a recovery system that works with our pressure washers. So the water that's coming out of the pressure washer and any material on the docks actually being recovered through a vacuum system into a barrel, which then we can dispose of upland.
Right, I just want people to be aware that we can't just drag a pressure washer down the dock and start washing. And it takes a little more time with that system than if you just had a pressure washer and you're blowing stuff all over the place.
Correct.
And it also keeps it off the side of their boats when you're doing the dock.
It absolutely helps keep it off the side of people's boats, and that is one thing that staff is very, very, very concerned about, is making sure we don't leave a mess on someone's boat when we're pressure washing the dock.
Right. Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
All right, thank you, commissioners.
Okay, Bellingham Shipping Terminal Cargo Operations. John Olson. Thanks for coming down.
All right.
right. Good afternoon, Commission. I'm John Olson, Marine Terminal Coordinator, Port of Bellingham. Today I'm going to be presenting a quick operational update on what we've got going on at the shipping terminal and potential new cargo that we hope to be seeing soon. So as you know, we've been having a lot of construction going on at the terminal over the last few months. Even with construction happening, we're actively marketing that the terminal is open for business. Matt Kress has been working hard to find us cargoes that we can do while the construction's being completed. Every cargo that we look at goes through our internal cargo review process. Just a reminder of that process. So typically the marine terminals team meets with potential customers. We gather as much detailed information as we can about the proposed operation, any unique operational requirements. And then we put that information into a standardized document. Then we share that document with our cargo review committee. The committee includes staff from environmental, engineering, real estate, the marine terminals team, and facilities. And the cargo review committee reviews the document. They ask any questions, share any concerns. They ask if, or they let us know if there's any potential impacts that we may have missed. We review and answer, or if we don't know the answer at the time, we follow up with the customer to make sure that everybody's on the same page for exactly what the operation will look like. With those answers, we go back to the committee and for a round of final input, and then we determine our course of action with the potential client. Over the past year as well, we've strategically attempted to shift our focus away from long-term leases and more towards short-term terminal use and active cargo movement. So this approach allows us to stay a little bit more flexible. It keeps materials flowing over the dock and avoids stagnant inventory sitting at the dock. So the idea is, you know, we want cargo moving across the terminal rather than sitting at the terminal taking up space. It also more closely aligns with how many of the other public ports operate their cargo terminals. That said, we're still certainly open to long-term leases if the investment and the shipping frequency makes sense for the business relationship. So that brings us to wood chips. So wood chips is a cargo opportunity that we've been working on recently. We were approached by a customer with a proposal to load wood chips onto barges for transport to Vancouver Island. After meeting with the customer, we spent time figuring out what the operation was going to look like. We went through our internal cargo review process. So just an idea of what the process will look like. Wood chips would be delivered to the shipping terminal using trucks. They would all be stored inside Warehouse 1 until they have enough material for a load out. Right now we're expecting about 14 trucks per day and taking about 2 weeks to receive enough wood chips for a load. Each load would be around 5,000 metric tons per barge. Longshore labor would be hired once every few days to come in and manage the pile, make sure it's stored efficiently for loading. When there's enough material, barge would arrive. It would be loaded. It would be loaded into a hopper, which would feed a conveyor. The hopper would be staged inside the warehouse, and then the conveyor would span the entire width of the pier. Let's see. Yeah, so the wood chips would be conveyed directly to the pier via conveyor. We've worked with the ILWU. We've come up with an agreement on what we think the manning would look like for the barges. Right now, we're anticipating the first couple of loads to be a day shift, a night shift, and then another day shift. And then 3 longshoreman jobs per shift, so 9 total per barge. That's not including take and let go of lines and line handling in between. This is a short-term agreement. It's a trial run set up for 6 months of barges, estimated at 2 barges per month. So this would allow both the port and the customer to examine the process, make any changes necessary, and hopefully it'll grow into a longer-term commitment with this customer. Similar to Granite's operation, we don't expect much noise associated with this cargo. The majority of the work takes place inside the warehouse with the hopper being loaded inside the warehouse. Also similar to Granite, you know, it's just the conveyor is a low hum that feeds the barge directly. Environmentally, we also believe this is a fairly easy cargo. I know stormwater is always a concern, but because all the material is stored inside the warehouse, we don't foresee any issues with stormwater. And because the conveyor extends the full width of the pier, we don't see any issues with spillage or anything like that. Wood chips also was one of the cargoes that we did present to the public at our open houses that we did at the shipping terminal last year. Any questions on wood chips?
Commissioner Briscoe?
No, I have none.
Mr. Shepherd?
Do we know where the wood chips are sourced? Are they?
They would be coming from Sierra Pacific in Burlington. Yeah, so they'd be trucked from Burlington.
And they're going to Vancouver Island?
Correct, yeah. So Crofton, BC, there's a pulp and paper mill in Crofton.
Right. Is this the same warehouse that Granite is conveying through?
Correct, yes. So Granite's conveyor will run through the very back portion of the warehouse, and then basically from Granite's lease forward would be wood chips.
And these will tie up on the main face of the pier?
Yes, yeah, correct. So they would be up against the dock. So you can kind of see in the picture there what the conveyor would look like. They'd be up against the dock, and then the conveyor would extend out over the middle of the barge.
For this barging traffic, does it work better if on that stub pier if we're able to get that back up and running? Is that what it's more designed for? Is that other piece to the south?
That's a good question. So with a barge like this, with a material like this, a bulk material, the conveyor actually moves back and forth. It's a radial stacker, so I think you would want the main pier rather than the stub pier, just so that you have the movement, the full movement of the width of, or the length of the barge for the radial stacker to operate.
Okay. All right.
What are they talking about after a 6-month trial? Are they looking for, what kind of a lease are they looking for long-term?
Good question. So we have, the agreement we have in place is, so it's for 6 months, and then, so that's basically an agreement on pricing for what services we're going to provide them. They're insured, they're bonded, and then, so after that, we can revisit what that agreement looks like. So if we need to make changes in pricing based on operations or manning or anything like that.
But they're not going to be happy with 6 months to 6 months, so at some point, there's going to be a longer term. Oh, I'm
Matt Kress.
I'm Matt.
Matthew Kress, Business Development Manager. So the trial is for 6 months, and if it all works out and everybody's happy about how everything's going environmentally and with the community and with the port, after we get the agreement looked at, we can make some changes if best practices are what we learn. But it could extend to 12 to 24 months after that. There is no lease in place because we're modernizing the terminal to do shipping cargo. This is barge cargo. This is just an agreement with them. It's a contract that they have time to stockpile cargo, and they're expected to get it off the terminal. So they have 15 days to stockpile their cargo to get it out. And then after that, they pay a fee in storage rather than a lease. And that way, we're not committed long-term, and we're able to be more flexible when the modernization is done. We're doing this to do cargo ships that employ a lot more people and generate more revenue for Wacom.
And this is a barge we're loading, not a ship?
No, it's a barge, sir.
With a hole?
Yeah.
And how long is it going to be moored?
A day and a half?
So they can empty the warehouse in a day and a half?
Yes.
That's impressive.
Are they currently shipping from another location?
Yeah, their other source is near Port Angeles, and they have an operation in Port Angeles as well. We are closer to the source of their new purchase, which is in Sierra Pacific, and we're closer to the final destination, so it makes sense to move these particular chips through BST.
And these would become paper products?
Paper products, but also used as biomass for fuel, for power, and they sell that power back to the grid that they don't use in their green operation there on Vancouver Island.
Thanks.
And I've got one more, so just a quick update on Granite. So Granite's lease in the cargo support area began on March 1st of this year. Marine Terminals Engineering and Real Estate have been meeting weekly with Granite to nail down the details for a final design for their conveyor. That works for both the port and Granite, and then as well as across the utility easement in the area, so we're also working with PSC as well. We're certainly getting closer to having an approved conveyor design. Once we get that in hand, Granite's going to get the equipment ordered. Optimistically, we expect procurement and installation to take a couple of months. So right now, we're hoping to see the first barges in June or maybe July. Any questions on Granite?
Commissioner Briscoe, any questions on Granite?
No, I think it's all pretty straightforward. We went through this before. I think I'm good.
Commissioner Shepard? And I have none either. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation and the time. All right, we'll move to action items.
Motion to approve the enclosed purchase and sale agreement for 58.81 acres of agricultural land located at 6211 Northwest Drive in Ferndale, and authorize the executive director to execute any necessary documents to complete the transaction, to include an amendment to the purchase and sale document, to change the closing date as needed for the port to utilize Department of Commerce grant funding.
Yeah, good evening, Commission. Tyler Schroeder, Economic Development Director. Hoping the presentation, the blue one, top right, can be put up. Thank you. Yeah, again, really excited to come in front of the Commission today to look towards a purchase and sales agreement for 58 acres on Northwest Drive for the creation of the Whatcom County Ag Research Station. A little background, the Port of Bellingham, Whatcom County, and the ag community has discussed a research station for many, many years. Back in 2023, the Port and Whatcom County really preliminarily agreed to the acquisition of this type of farm and facility for the creation of the research station. You know, the strategic purpose of this acquisition is that research station will be focused on investing into the future of local ag, which is a huge sector of our economy, job creation, and promoting economic development opportunities in that ag economy. So the property at hand is at 6211 Northwest Drive. It's 58.81 acres. The purchase price is approximately $3.4 million. That's approximately $34,000 an acre, which is a number contrived from the appraisals that we've done. We've added in $100,000 earnest money for the commitment to going through with the transaction, and that $100,000 would be committed to after the 60-day feasibility. There's a number of steps that the port still needs to accomplish within this 60-day feasibility, and the idea would be to have a closing date on or before October 1st of 2025. The October 1st, 2025 allows for the Box Berry Farm to continue the ag at that location and farming. Because of the time of spring, they were able to plant crops and ask for the port to acquire the property in October instead of by the end of June. The sellers, the boxes, reserve the right to buy back 4.71 acres within 3 years. They're going through a platting process for a homestead lot, and the county is currently reviewing that, and so the box requested a 3-year time frame in which they could buy back that piece at the $34,000 an acre in the valuation. The tenant that is proposed to operate the facility is the Whatcom Food and Farming Station. Blake Teveld is here and able to answer some questions on that nonprofit, and we can get to that in a little bit. So a little background as well on the property funding. Again, this is a partnership between the county, the state, the ag community, and the Port of Bellingham. Back in 2024, the state, through support from the legislators in the 42nd, Sharon Shoemake and others, were able to get a Department of Commerce grant for $741,000. We still need to go through and finalize that grant, and that's one of the items that we'll do during the 60-day feasibility. But that is in the budget, and it will be available through the end of June to be able to come up with that grant agreement. The preliminary approval from Whatcom County was to utilize EDI, the Economic Development Investment Fund. for a grant and loan in the total of $2.7 million. Including in that EDI will be $100,000 to cover the port cost for acquisition, include some staff time, the appraisal, and the other environmental review that needs to be accomplished before actual acquisition. The county EDI funds will be a 2/3 grant, 1/3 loan. So on the port books will be 1/3 loan. And the idea is with the lease and the letter of intent that we've signed with the Whatcom Food and Farming Station, we'll have a 20-year loan repayment, and that will be no more than $55,000, which will be fairly equal to the lease rate for the Whatcom Food and Farming Station nonprofit. So a little bit more background. I'm really excited to have an opportunity where the Whatcom Food and Farming Station nonprofit was created most recently. We've worked with them to sign a letter of intent to operate the facility with the overall use to be a agriculture research facility and farm. Board of directors represent berry, dairy, vegetable, market-orientated farms, and the overall agricultural business. So a real diverse representation of our agricultural economy, and has support from WSU Cooperative Extension as well as the Washington State University Research and Extension Center. Overall support from Washington Red Raspberry Commission, which we all know is located here locally in Whatcom County, because raspberries is one of the top, if not the top, commodity that's being produced in Whatcom County. Again, the idea would be to come up with a lease with the Whatcom Food and Farming Station at approximately $55,000 to cover the EDI loan repayment. And WFFS would be responsible for all facility maintenance and repairs. Why don't I give a chance for Blake to walk through a little bit more on the nonprofit.
I'm Blake Tavildi with Whatcom Food and Farming Station. Like Tyler mentioned, we're a very diverse group of agriculturalists from the county, and we've kind of had this vision for a while to create a hub where agriculture of our whole county can come together and not just focus on maybe the, a specific industry, but, have berry, dairy, vegetables. There's kind of a big need that's opened up with the whole Cloud Mountain Farm Center kind of stepping back. There's a lot of small growers that focus on the farmers markets, et cetera, that are kind of looking for a home. And so with this thing, it allows us to kind of create that hub center. It's got a retail space in the front. It maybe allows for some year-round farmers market type activities. There's also some facilities there that could be food processing, et cetera. So in cooperation with Washington State University and the extension there, we also have some private researchers that'd be interested in doing some research at the station as well. And so we have, a lot of support behind us. So I'm here to answer questions if you have any, and I'll do my best.
Okay. You're good. One of the other neat opportunities is WSU has a $1.5 million endowment for Red Raspberry and the research and development associated with it. But what was needed was a facility to be able to operate out of and to be able to consolidate the research plots that we have throughout Whatcom County on one location. So there's a consolidated spot to be able to do that actual research. The overall idea, I think we're all aware of kind of the bread farm in Skagit. EDI actually from Whatcom County helped fund the Skagit bread farm to get it off the ground. And we all know how successful that's been for that specific type of commodity. The idea here would be to really replicate that and bring the value added opportunities in agriculture. What are the new types of commodities that Whatcom County should really look towards as we look into the future to be resilient? What type of irrigation opportunities and kind of be more resilient to climate change? This would be a location to do that research and development with the committed partners in the ag community and a very well-known education facility through Washington State University. So just generally, here's the property that's at hand, 6211 Northwest Drive. The property is outlined in the yellow You can see on the lower right-hand corner of this, or the southeast corner of the property, is the facility itself, retail space, a couple of different buildings for the innovation and operations, and then also the 53 odd acres for agricultural purposes. In the letter of intent, we are allowing the WFSS, the Whatcom Food and Farming Station, to do some operations for agricultural and lease out the residents for about 3 to 5 years, or really to get some income in to really help establish that nonprofit and establish the research and development station as it moves forward. The homestead lot on the top right in the black, the boxes are going to keep, and the blue lot, garden lot, is the 4.71 acres that they have an opportunity to buy back within 3 years for an agreed upon price that's in the purchase and sales agreement. So again, the ask for the commission is to approve the executive director's authority to sign the purchase and sales agreement. There are a number of steps that staff will be working on to finalize the funding agreements, to do the due diligence, and to finalize a lease with the Whatcom Food and Farming Station. And that'll all happen in the next 60 days. And so we got our work ahead of us, but really excited about the opportunity to see this come to fruition. Any questions for myself or for Blake?
Commissioner Shepard?
Let's see, a couple questions. I think first and foremost is there still going to be ice cream sales at, that's what my kids are going to grill me with, because we are there every summer.
That would be definitely an option. I can't promise anything, but we definitely want to take full utilization of that retail space. So, yeah.
It's a well-known spot. People around the community really enjoy going there, both for UPIC and all sorts of other operations, certainly for the retail. It's well-known and well-enjoyed.
Can I introduce you to a dairy farmer or two to help you with that?
Yes, we actually have one on our board of directors. But yeah. The more, the merrier.
Or just don't get rid of the ice cream.
One of the opportunities that I think is exciting is to really look into the value add for the agricultural community, and ice cream's a great example of that, right? And so I think the hope and the vision is that you can start to try to test and take different commodities that we're growing in Whatcom County and thinking about what the value add to be able to add a more economic benefit to just the commodity that's being grown. So hopefully ice cream will be a part of that.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate this coming forward. We've talked for several years about an opportunity to invest in our agricultural community. They're a major employer. They're a major part of our community fabric. And we haven't really found a key initiative that we were able to get behind. This has kind of been percolating along as something possible for a while, but it seems like the right opportunity with a really premier property, and then new but seeming to be very capable organization able to help us get there. We're going to continue to hope the WSU collaboration materializes. They've been a partner in the county already, and we hope that this becomes a permanent space for them to do that work. But you know, I think we've just been wanting to invest in this part of our economy for a while. We try and spread our talent and staff power to as many sectors of our economy as possible, and this is one we've talked about but haven't really been able to adequately invest in, and so I'm glad to see this come forward. This requires some partnership with the county. What do we need to do to make sure that we have the support and collaboration to get the EDI funds dedicated here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Shepard. So again, back in 2023, this concept proposal was discussed with the council, with the executive conversations with Rob and the executive director here at the port. And now with the recognition of the operator, with the purchase and sales agreement, knowing what the actual EDI application is, we'll be going forward with the EDI application to the EDI board. I believe that'll be May 6th, if not a little bit beforehand, and that would go to then the county council. So they are aware of the project. Generally, they've all been very supportive of the project, but any kind of reach out specific to this content or other information would be helpful, because it is this acquisition is contingent on that county EDI funding.
Sure. Okay. For some of the existing, there's existing blueberry plants and other kind of established crops. Do those plan to maintain and continue utilizing those as assets?
At this location?
Yeah.
Do you know? Did you talk to Mike?
I haven't ironed that out specifically, but there's definitely talk of that. It's gets into agronomics and varieties and stuff that would get in the weeds, but it's definitely known and talked about. There's actually some raspberries established there as well that they're in discussions about. So.
Okay. All right.
One component to that is the boxes have planted for this season, and John Mayberry is on the board of directors for the Whatcom Food and Farming Station, and he's also made a commitment to continue to farm the acreage to be able to keep the land fertile for the research and development opportunities in the near future. WSU and other raspberry farmers, and I believe blueberries, but I'm not sure specifically, have research plots throughout the county at different locations. And so the real idea would be to co-locate those, consolidate them here, so WSU can do a better understanding of that research and where that crop development is. And that's going to be a great opportunity, and why we need to purchase the farmland along with the facility.
Thanks.
Commissioner Briscoe, any comments, questions?
Yeah, I think this is great. I mean, first 2 years of first two rounds as a commissioner, we were trying to figure out how to get something going with the ag community and boost it and do the job we're supposed to do to get the economics moving along. And I'm really glad to see that finally, after 9 years here, we're going to see something come to fruition. It's great, and I hope it all happens. And with that behind us, maybe we can figure out Point Roberts. That's the next question mark.
So I'm kind of curious about a couple of things. This is modeled loosely on the Skagit Bread Lab, correct? As a
Yes.
as a basic model.
Yes.
And the hope is that we can get the WSU involvement to be similar to what the Bread Lab has done with Washington State, correct?
Correct.
And you're planning to do that with berries, and I'm assuming your potatoes and those kind of vegetables are all on the table because that's what we grow here?
Yeah, if it's grown here, it's on the table.
And are you talking about any genetic modifications, or are you talking about just variety modifications? What are some of the studies that you expect to do through Washington State?
Yeah, a lot of it is
Disease prevention?
yes, and yes. A lot of it is related to climate resiliency right now. Irrigation is a hot topic. Variety development, and how that ties to climate change. There's also going to be, we envision market research with, as Tyler mentioned, value added and marketing those products that we already grow here and building those markets. So really, everything's on the table as far as research goes, but we don't really this is not going to be a testing ground for chemical companies, et cetera. It's going to be more based on agronomics and climate resiliency and those sorts of things. So.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things to come out of the Skagit Bread Lab is the ancient grain studies, where they've gone back to some of the ancient grains and brought back a much more nutritious wheat product, for example, and something like that. Is that?
Yeah, that would definitely
that's
be on the
table. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What's old is new again. So, in more ways than one.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think, and how that model fits with what the crops that we grow here, a lot of them are similar, yes, but the Whatcom County is a big berry producer, and so how we can, match those things and go back to some heirloom varieties, et cetera, are all on the table.
Okay, that's all for me. Gentlemen, ready to vote? Commissioner Briscoe? Oh, well, let's read the motion first. Sorry, Trace.
Motion to approve the enclosed purchase and sale agreement for 58.81 acres of agricultural land located at 6211 Northwest Drive in Ferndale, and authorize the executive director to execute any necessary documents to complete the transaction, to include an amendment to the purchase and sale document, to change the closing date as needed for the port to utilize Department of Commerce grant funding.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Commissioner Shepard?
Also a yes.
And Bob, you voted for me, so it's obviously a yes. Unanimous. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks. We hope we can pull this off. We will lobby. Okay. Action item number 2.
Motion to approve and execute a lease for property located at 3910 Williamson Way, Lot C, between Port of Bellingham and North Star Industrial Park, LLC.
One moment, please. Thank you, that's it. Hi, Elliot Smith, the real estate director for the Port of Bellingham. I just want to check before I start this, is Michael Berner online?
Yes, he is.
I'm here. Great, thank you. Michael, if we have questions, we may come back to you. So this proposal is for a lease of 3.49 acres at the Airport Industrial Park, also known as Lot C. It is a development that the real estate team has been working on with Michael Berner and his partners for a good year and a half now. The lease is to develop a light industrial park to be called North Star Industrial Park LLC, and that sits inside of the port's Airport Industrial Park, which in turn sits inside of the airport master plan that's been established and approved by this commission and the FAA in the past. The site will have about 40,000 square feet of light industrial space, could be used for general light industry, and could also be used for airport aviation-related production. That each of those buildings will have office space connected to it, I believe about 2,500 square foot each, so that you would have light industrial warehousing or light manufacturing space attached to some office space to be run. There is a slight error on this posting. The commencement date is proposed as May 1st, 2025. The rent would be just over $9,000 a month to start with. The term of the lease, and I will refer to the lease in its base term and all of its extensions in the future. So the total is for 75 years, and that consists of a 50-year initial term and 2 10-year renewals and 1 5-year renewal. I know we have discussed this topic in the past, but we may not sell land at the Airport Industrial Park, and to facilitate the development of property there and investment in an area where it is more usual to buy property, that's the reason for the longer-term lease. In addition to the main plot of 3.49 acres, there is an additional plot next door, labeled here in red as D15. And 3 or 4 years ago, when we started to look at this plot, there were some wetland issues we wanted to explore further. we've now determined that some of those areas were not actually active wetlands. So D15 is available now to develop. And as that determination came quite late in this process, Mr. Berner has taken an option to add D15 to this lease within 2 years, if he wishes. In the meantime, the port will continue to market it, and if someone else is interested, Michael Berner will be able to immediately start a lease and put a similar set of structures on that property. They share a driveway that you see is the access road here above it, just above the words D15 on this sheet, if you can see my mouse across here. So both properties would access through that area out to Williamson Way. I think the only thing I would like to add here is that Mr. Berner, we've done quite a lot of background work with him. He has come up here a number of times, met with at least one commissioner to talk through both his business background, his plans for the future, and most importantly, how he intends to maintain the appearance and the good repair of these structures over such a long period. And at the request of the commission, we did add language to the lease indicating that the repair of the facility would stay as it is when it's completed. And yeah, buildings need a refresh from time to time, and that's anticipated in the planning for this lease. So I would like to ask if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. My colleague Annika Bjorkman is here if I fall short, and Michael is here online if you have questions for him as the owner. Oh, I've left out one thing. This is with an existing port tenant. So the lot you see here says current premises leased by A8 Growth. We have a cable firm operating from that. Mr. Berner's company purchased that building and leases the ground from us for a number of years now. That building has improved considerably. They've improved the outside structure of the building, cleaned up the parking lot, established some parking along the front edge, and added a substantial solar array to the roof of that building. So this is a developer that we do have a track record with over the last few years. Any questions?
Commissioner Briscoe?
No, we discussed this before. I have no questions.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yeah, a couple of questions. What type of use do we expect in this building? What type of tenants may we expect? And do we have any idea of capacity for job growth and creation?
Yeah, I can partly answer that question, and perhaps Mr. Berner could as well. Because the port, as our finance director pointed out a little while ago, we are at capacity. We do not have empty space of almost any kind at this moment. You can see our monthly lease brochure to see what's available, but very little. So we frequently get companies looking for space in port properties, either down here at the port or at the airport or in Blaine, and we often don't have anything free at that moment. We'll take their names. I know one company that was out there is a dairy-oriented company. We weren't able to accommodate them, but they're looking for a new production distribution place. We've passed that name on to Mr. Berner's company. So he may well have a number of tenants before he even has completed building this property, if approved by commission. And then I don't know if, Michael, do you want to comment further on types of tenants?
I think we're looking for light industrial. The video is not working, but hopefully, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. You covered the lead process well, so we have some cold storage tenants that we've talked to. Of course, the build out time, plus the uncertainty of the lease has made it hard to get firm commits from anyone. But we do see more interest than you would expect for a project at this stage. To your question on the employment numbers, we did some math. Currently, Cablecom, who is the cable installer out there, I think employs 60 people out of that site, but that's a inflated number because they're doing installations. That is I think roughly a 6,000 square foot facility. So this is estimated to be 40,000 square feet. So you can get up to a very high number of jobs. It really depends on the tenants that we put into the facilities, though. So if the people are working full-time on site, I'd expect it to be a lot less than 60, the ratio that you get from the 60 to the 6,000.
But light industrial type buildings for, that are kind of flexible in their purpose.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we're very excited about airport tenants as well. The port has the right under this lease to approve, they have to approve all lease subleasees. I guess all of our customers need to be approved by the port. And in fact, we just signed today a renewal for Cablecom that the port approved as well. So, but the goal is to try and get light industrial tenants in there. So maybe cold storage seems like a good opportunity, and then we really want to market to the airport, potential airport tenants as well.
And in my excitement, I forgot to put up the next slide. So this is a mock-up of the general type of buildings and the footprint layout we expect to see on Lot C if this lease is approved. As is typical for this type of deal, you would expect the developer to come up with a general concept, work the pro forma. When a lease is approved, then they would invest the several $100,000 more to do a complete design, engineering, and the permitting process. And that's fairly typical for a development on a leased property.
Well, I think my main request is for, Michael, for you to be looking at airport-related tenants. You know, we've got only so much land in and around the airport, and we really want to use that airport to activate our local economy as much as possible. It's a real asset, and businesses that can feed off of that opportunity and can invest more in that opportunity that the airport represents is something of really high interest to me. And I think we're going to continue looking at ways that we can develop planning around business development at the airport that's really focused on our aeronautical industries. Those are substantial employers throughout Washington state. We've got a lot of talent in this state related to that industry, and there's no reason we shouldn't be a hub for that type of manufacturing or other business here in Whatcom County as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we haven't gotten any of those leads yet, but I can't see why this wouldn't be the ideal opportunity for them. I think it may be helpful. The person who's going to be running the commercial front end of this, Rebecca, I think is there or was there. I know she had to leave.
She's had to leave, but she was attending until just a few moments ago.
Yeah, but it would be good to get the. So it is our intention after discussions with Ken to build a specific marketing campaign towards the tenants at the airport, mostly because it's a good business decision. If there's some way to set up lead generation like what we have with the port, I don't know if airport tenants who they go to when they need space, but if there's a natural place to collect those, we should get in touch with that person or persons to start to build the funnel ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're thinking on that, and our staff will certainly be helpful with getting some of those contacts.
Great.
Yeah. I'll just share my only heartburn about these type of proposals is we at the port, we have limited capital. Really, public lands like this are an opportunity for a public agency like us to build these type of buildings ourselves and do the leasing so that there isn't a middleman in between. No offense to you as this potential middleman, Michael. But, you know, as a public agency, I do think that is the kind of opportunity that we have to most efficiently use public lands for public benefit. We have limited capital. We only have so much bonding capacity that we have available to use at any one time. And we have a long list of projects that we're always trying to tackle. And so we have to weigh when is the right time to position our capital for opportunities and when is the right time to allow the private sector to come in and help us get to potentially that same place of development of property, employment, and economic revenue for the community. And so it's just one that I personally struggle with, and I just want our staff to know that as we look at other development opportunities, it's always my preference if we can run the show ourselves. But I know Rob hasn't invented the money tree yet, and we are still looking for those seeds to, you know, make sure we can have all the revenue we need to do all the projects we hope for.
Thank you. I think staff agrees with you wholeheartedly. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't point out that there are 4 other opportunities where you could have a go as well.
I think we have a new research facility that we can actually look for that money tree opportunity to present itself.
Very funny.
So first of all,
I'm a dad.
touche. Thank you, Michael, for first of all taking the time to meet with me and walk the site a little bit. Appreciate your time and attention to some of the concerns that I had. So I'm done. I'm glad to see economic development happen out here, economic development, and I do see the job growth happening. And I do think this is a little bit of a field of dreams scenario as we talk about that, where you build this and you'll find it. Also of note is the proximity to the airport. And if we do this well, I don't see any reason why we can't actually have small aircraft come through that site. We can do mechanical. I mean, I see this being a boost to a lot of opportunities out there at the airport. So, and Michael, if you want to stick around, I've got a little bit of a tag along I'm going to do under other business about how we're doing some planning out here at the airport that you may want to listen in on or participate in down the road. But otherwise, I have no more questions.
I would. Is this record? I'm coaching my daughter's softball team and have to leave for that.
Is she winning?
Well, she won her first game last weekend after 7 losses, so it was a big celebration. But this is just a practice that I am the coach.
All right.
So I won't be able to stay for that. Although I would really like to stay for that, I will not be able to.
Just grab me for coffee someday. Thanks.
I will look forward to that.
Okay. Tracy?
Motion to approve and execute a lease for property located at 3910 Williamson Way, Lot C, between Port of Bellingham and North Star Industrial Park, LLC.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepard?
Also, yes.
Commissioner Bellows, yes, you got 3 yeses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Not that you're new to the neighborhood, but welcome to an expanded neighborhood, Michael.
Well, I'm excited. I think, as we discussed, I think that one will be a good tenant, but I think that the work that we will do will help to set a higher bar for that area, and I think that that may give you the courage and the budget not to have middlemen in the future. So I think we may be competing for future lots, maybe, or something. I don't know.
From your lips,
I'm very excited about that area. I think it has a lot of potential.
yeah, from your lips to God's ears. Thank you.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Motion to authorize the executive director to execute a lease with Barleans Fishery Incorporated for property located at 2551 Roeder Avenue in substantially similar form as the attached proposed lease.
Thank you. I'm Annika Bjorkman, Senior Property Manager in Real Estate Department. I'm here today to present a lease with Barlean's Fishery at 2551 Roeder. The aerial shown on here shows the premises outlined in red, which includes 1,993 square feet of retail office space and 21,935 square feet of parking lot and boat storage. The use is retail, wholesale, seafood market, fish processing, offices, and boat storage. The initial rent is $4,166.45 per month. With the future fish processing, the rent will be around $9,000 a month for the full facility. And the lease term is 5 years, so it's a 2-year initial term with 3 one-year renewal terms. And I also have Mark and April here from Barlean's if we have any questions for them, and I can help answer any questions with the lease.
Commissioner Briscoe?
No, we've talked about it on a couple, 3 different occasions, and I think all my questions have been answered previously.
Commissioner Shepard?
You know what, we've been looking for more opportunities to activate our seafood sales. Dockside Market has done a fantastic job of building some of that customer base. And I think those customers are naturally looking for additional locations for kind of day-to-day purchasing. And hopefully this continues to activate and work with and kind of boost both to be successful operations. So I'm glad to see us continuing to invest in our maritime economy and having direct sale opportunities for folks to get the bounty of this region.
Thank you.
Commissioner
That
Briscoe?
wasn't a question, it was just a comment.
You're good, Commissioner Briscoe. Did you two catch the conversation earlier about ice cream? By the way, thank you for coming, and thank you for sitting through the entire meeting with us, and it's a pleasure to meet you, and welcome to the neighborhood. I have no questions. Shall we vote?
Motion to authorize the executive director to execute a lease with Barlean's Fishery Incorporated for property located at 2551 Roeder Avenue in substantially similar form as the attached proposed lease.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepard?
Also, yes.
Commissioner Bell is yes. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we go to the end of the meeting, public comment, and then we'll move on to other business. If there's anyone online that wishes to have a public comment, now is the time to do it. You can talk about anything on or off our agenda. Is there anyone online? Anyone in the room that would care to make a public comment? Okay, let's move to other business. Commissioner Briscoe?
No, I have none. I think you have some, though, I think.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yeah, I had a couple. Tyler, I was wondering if we could get an update on our broadband applications. I know we have been collaborating with the PUD for a number of state grant opportunities. Wondering how those are going and what our next opportunities are.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Tyler Schroeder, Economic Development Director. About 2 months ago, I came to commission and Andrew Echtine from the PUD was here and we walked through the opportunities for the round 1 WISBO grants. That grant closed in, I would say, late January. The port was able to apply for applications for all of the project areas. There's approximately 9 different WISBO project areas for broadband grants. We have not officially heard, because WISBO has not actually announced the decisions about round 1 grants, but we are in discussion with WISBO on one of the project areas. And the next opportunity will be round 2. And we continue to work with the PUD and private broadband entities to partner with them for round 2 applications, which will close, I believe, the middle of May. Round 1 was really an opportunity for fiber proposals, and honestly, the cost limits that WISBO has placed was too low for actual fiber to the home. being at about 7,000 per area. So it made it very hard to craft applications to be successful. We are thankful that we're still having conversations with one of the project areas and really see that as a great opportunity for a specific location in Whatcom County, and we'll be excited to be able to announce that when we're able to. Round two really will be more of a hybrid approach. And I think our community and our rural areas that need to have broadband, the hybrid approach fits really, really quite well. There's a couple of private entities that we're speaking with. Actually, I will say we're speaking with every private entity that provides broadband in the county, and are hopeful that we're going to have more competitive grant applications to WISBO to get the 25% match that WISBO is providing for a few project areas, or all the project areas that we're going to be applying for. So the WISBO process is kind of interesting. They've done round one, round two, and then round three. We're about to submit for round two. They will have a round three, and then they won't actually announce until September or October of this year. And along with that has to do an extension to the NTIA, the federal government, to allow for that WISBO to be extended to that point. So we'll see exactly. We do believe we'll have some competitive applications for round two, and I'll be able to give a more specific indication of which ones were successful, probably by late summer or early fall.
Is any of this reliant on federal money that is uncertain or liable to get musked?
Yes.
It is.
I didn't know
It's
that was
not a good thing.
verb. So with the extension to the NTIA, that will be a hurdle that has to be overcome. And the decision about funding fiber with wireless or satellite will still be a decision that needs to be made by the federal government.
Do we know if other public agencies were more successful meeting that challenging threshold of pricing?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been in contact with a number of different partner agencies. Island County, we're working a lot with Skagit County. We've heard that a lot of the applications were kind of in the eastern side of the state. And so there was no really rhyme or reason to how to submit a successful application for round one. It really did come down to the ability to meet that cost estimate, and that was really tough to do unless you had specific locations that were in close proximity to an existing provider that wasn't really rural in nature, kind of like what we're looking to do in Whatcom County at this point. I would just want to compliment Andrew Echtine at the PUD and Elise Ingalls on our staff. Has really helped with the WISBO process and the background grant applications.
Okay, well, thanks for getting our round two applications ready to go, and we'll keep watching this.
Thank you.
I didn't really prep you for this, Matt, but I don't know if you're the best person. I was wanting to get some update on our rail spur. Just federal funds are on my mind, and the instability at the federal government continues to make me concerned at lots of levels, and we've got one major high-profile project, wanting to make sure those funds are still coming through for that, and if you just have any update for us on the rail spur advancement.
Yeah, so earlier before we believed that we would have the grant awarded well in advance, because our end is done, the tribal consultation, the State Historic Preservation Office, and the agreement are all finished. But the new administration is in the process of rewriting the grant agreements with certain language being either removed or added. And we anticipate MARAD to come back to us with the new agreement. They've accepted the agreement that we sent over to them, and they're going to just copy and paste into the new agreement. So they're just waiting on the current administration. That funding has not been pulled. We are very confident as an infrastructure project, and it's not related to any projects that are on the chopping block that we are aware of. It's not electrification. It's not any kind of. It's a rail project. So it's a critical infrastructure project. So we don't have the funding yet, but we're close. What we've done is applied for a pre-spend request. And so we filed that paperwork with MARAD to ask if we can pre-spend $750,000 this calendar year for design and engineering. And then our engineering department is working closely with the city because they have a lot of projects going on in that area, so we're all aligned. And our environmental team, Ben, has a lot of projects in that same area for remediation regarding the historical contamination from GP. And so that's that. And current grants that are available, like PDIP and other things, we're waiting for revised NOFOs, so those deadlines may be changed as of next week to knock those, the deadlines for those grants back by several months while they have the new NOFOs and the requirements in there. So that's, the new NOFOs may require ports that put more of their funds into projects to move higher up on the selection. So normally it's an 80-20, and if you offer to pay more, your application might rise higher now with the current administration. And they're also adding other interesting things that are just, they're not known yet. So I can't answer what the future holds.
Okay. Is there some environmental cleanup that has to be done prior to this project being implemented?
I believe they'll be done in concert, so it'll go right in front of it.
Yeah, okay. Last question on that area. Are we a free foreign trade zone at the shipping terminal?
BST proper, which is 10 acres, is a foreign trade zone. The cargo support area is at this time, it's designated, it's not activated because of the requirements. We don't have cargo yet coming in, but it's designated as a foreign trade zone. We've done all the requirements. We have the fencing, the cameras in place, the signage for Customs and Border Protection. So the day we want to activate that, we call Customs. They come and do a site visit, make sure we check all our boxes, and then we can activate the site. So we've already done that pre-work, but the cargo support area is separate because the requirements are pretty stringent about fencing, and we just don't need to put that kind of money into that asset at this point in time. But we have 10 acres of 23 acres designated.
Has that helped us materialize any contracts?
We have interest from auto carriers and other companies, but at this time, our modernization project is not finished, so we can't seize those opportunities. And with the tariffs right now, the reason why we activated designated as the foreign trade zone in advance of the current administration is just in case they did exactly what they did. We're just not at the process in our modernization where we can bring a full-size ship in and do that work.
And just for dumb questions, the purpose of a foreign trade zone is to be able to have ability to import and export without paying tariff? Is that, or
it does several
something like
things.
that?
It allows people to defer tariffs. So there's CBP requires you to, Customs and Border Protection requires you to pay tariffs after a certain amount of days. And if you don't move your cargo, what they call inbound to the final destination, you're gonna have to pay that tariff. Having a foreign trade zone is considered outside of the United States, so it can sit there indefinitely without paying the tariffs and wait until either some cargoes are quoted like steel, so once the quotas come up, then you pull out your steel because the quotas are now open with Customs. So it helps cash flow. It allows people to import cargo and not pay tariffs right away. It kind of defers tariffs. But it also allows us to do foreign cargo through BST and avoid other issues. So they can bring Canadian cargo, for example. Let's say they want to discharge autos at BST. They can discharge them and wait until their logistics are ready to take those to the border and not have to pay tariffs at BST. They would move them to the border in bond from our foreign trade zone to the Canadian market, and no one would pay a tariff because of the United States.
Okay.
If that helps.
That does. That was a good answer. And I didn't even give you any for advance notice that I was going to grill you on FTZs here.
There's also a provision that allows for assembly and changing the form, correct?
does.
So if you bring it in and change the form and manufacture, so you
You're
bring your,
absolutely correct, but we are not doing any manufacturing at BST, so we'll not be manipulating the cargo.
but I'm saying
yes,
that's
you
also
can
one
do
of the
that.
provisions, yeah.
We have a foreign trade zone at the airport as well. It's foreign trade zone 129, and that's managed by our economic development team, and that is an opportunity for other people that might want to get into business at the airport to do manufacturing in a foreign trade zone.
Okay. Well, thanks for continuing to look for diverse cargo for our terminal. We're going to continue to invest in making sure that facility is ready to handle cargo and put people to work and bring revenue to the community. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
All right. Just a quick question for Elliot. With the change of operations at Sound Beverage, that is a refrigerated facility, and I am scheduled to go out there and take a look at it. But just wondering if the refrigeration and the dairy companies have had a look at that operation to keep that building as an asset with the infrastructure that currently exists on that site.
I can't speak to Elliot Smith, Real Estate Director. I can't speak to exactly who the current building owner has spoken to. Tyler Schroeder, our Director of Economic Development, and myself, and Annika Bjorkman from our team have all walked through the facility. It's currently about a 31-degree chilled facility, of course, for beer products and that sort of thing. My view is that technically it could be easily converted to sub-zero as well, because the equipment is not mounted on the roof; it's mounted on the side of the building, with only the chiller blowers hanging on the inside. So I believe he's marketing to a number of different facilities. We've currently met with the building owner and encouraged that he continue with food type businesses, both marine and continuing the beverage business they've been in. But it is up to him to market it. We will certainly send anyone we can. And I think, Annika, were you about to tell me someone that we've sent?
I was just going to comment that they did meet with the dairy and the building's too big for them. I was trying to whisper that to him, sorry.
I'm bad at that. So, that was the same dairy we referred to in our previous presentation.
Yeah, I didn't expect that they would be able to take up the whole space, but I thought maybe some combination of businesses in there could keep that in that kind of production.
But I think it's great that you go out and take a look at it. It's a very well-maintained facility. It's not brand new, but the loading docks, the refrigeration equipment, the doors, it's been well cared for.
Yeah, I'm headed out tomorrow. He hasn't gotten back to me with a time yet, but I've got some time reserved for him tomorrow, so I'll go take a look. Yep, thank you.
Look forward to hearing about it. Thank you.
Great. And then the second one is kind of on the heels, and I'll give you a hard copy. I sent this over to you, Rob. If you could do me a favor and ship it over to Bobby. I didn't want to create a serial meeting and ship it over to him myself, but I've got a couple of comments on the airport planning session, so I thought I'd put them in writing and just make it a discussion point. If you guys are willing to give me a little bit of time on that. First of all, I want to go back and say what a great meeting it was last time. At least from what I saw, the participants that were there gave us some great feedback on the airport. Even the hangar operators that were operating businesses out of there, we learned some things by talking to our customers, and I thought that was a great experience to have them in the room and to realize that there were some opportunities. We also learned that there are a number of areas out there that that had potential that we just needed to take a look at. So I'm hoping that we can get another planning session for the airport in the coming weeks. And I thought I'd just sort of share my expectations on that and what I thought we might get out of it. But the first thing I want to do is settle in on some of the planning issues that need to happen, I think, out there. I think Elliot had a slide up there of the airport industrial area at some point. It's kind of my opinion that it needs a whole new look. Because we're kind of hamstrung by the fact that we can't sell property, that we have to lease it, I think it's more important that the appearance of an industrial park look like an industrial park. And that when someone comes to the site to look at it, when you put an RFP out, for example, for a lot, anybody looking at that space is going to look at it from an aerial view, and they're going to see that lot, but they're not going to see the potential. And I think it's up to the commission and the port to kind of unlock that potential. So that means I think we may have to take a look at making sure that we've done our job from a planning standpoint as we look at this. And it involves a couple of things from my standpoint, and that is not only talking to more of the people that are out there. I know that Alpha's got a huge operation that is going to bleed down into some of that open area, understanding what their needs are, understanding how that is going to flow, understanding that we've got airport access into that industrial area. Any way we can facilitate airplanes to go into the industrial area to be repaired, to create basically airport type industries in that industrial park, I think are part of it. I know that the Lummi Tribe is looking to develop the property on I-5 near Slater. They currently are revamping the entire roundabout area up there. They have asked the city of Ferndale to vacate Cope Road, which now intersects that area, which is going to have an impact. So I think having a dialogue with interested parties on the north, which includes the tribe, which includes the city of Ferndale, into how we will develop that industrial area, I think is going to take some planning. There are currently just rumors out there that they're looking at a water park and other types of activities like that. That's going to have an impact on how we build out the north end of that industrial park area. So I think it's important that we have those stakeholders give us some kind of a feedback loop. There's some anecdotal evidence that we've got some business downsizing. I know Woodstone is not as big as it used to be. There's property around the Woodstone area that I think we could probably make use of, but that involves understanding what the parking situation looks like at the airport, having a full understanding of when do we need the parking, how much parking do we need, what are the future needs for that parking, what parts of that road along Mitchell Way can we actually turn into income generating properties. I would love to see that kind of a study or information brought to the table. I know that we're going to be losing Sound Beverage. What does that look like? How does that fit in? With the addition of the new industrial park, that's certainly going to change the tenor and the tone of the industrial area. I think it's going to do nothing but enhance it. But what does that do to the other properties around it? I think we need a plan for that, to take a look at it. I don't know if the roads out there, having driven a couple of them, can sustain a lot of the heavy traffic that we might have. Some of them may need shoring up, may need strengthening. I certainly am looking to EDI for funding, and I know it's not going to be cheap, but I think EDI could serve no better purpose than to help us build out in a foreign trade zone, especially currently, roads to spec, drainage to spec, getting the infrastructure in place for a northern industrial park, getting the infrastructure in place to do the lots along the runway, get them cleared, do selective clearing where it's appropriate, having a plan in place to have that in our heads. I'm looking for available parcels so that when we're done, we have all of the parcels that are available around that area, which ones have wetlands on them, which ones are real wetlands that can't be disturbed, which ones we think are wetlands, what does that look like when it's cleared? I wanted to make sure that the roads inside the industrial area are the most, are standard and can handle commercial vehicles. The Mitchell Way properties, I think I've already talked about. I want to make sure we emphasize the free trade zone. I see a tremendous amount of opportunity for manufacturing moving in this direction. And I'm just going to speak anecdotally. We built about 1 million, my company built about 1.2 million of products in the US last year, destined for Canada. As soon as the tariff talk came, the price for those commodities went up 25%. Tariffs weren't even in place yet, but we were seeing the increase in pricing. We've now moved most of that manufacturing up somewhere between Calgary and Edmonton to build in Canada. There's equally the same number of opportunities for people wanting to manufacture and move things down to the free trade zone here. So I think now is the time to take advantage of the trade zone that we've got, the foreign trade zone. I call it free trade, the foreign trade zone. And I think now is the time to be aggressive with our marketing on it. We haven't had a lot of movement on the job growth out there for a couple of decades. And I think a lot of it is we just sort of needed to put something in place that looked more like an industrial development. If you look north to Grandview and you do an aerial shot of Grandview, it looks very different than what the airport looks like. If you do an aerial view of any of the industrial parks, you go to Iron Gate and you do an aerial view of that, there's a lot of infrastructure in place. There's a lot of planning in place. There's a lot of structures that I think can be built. And when I talk about doing this at the airport, I talk about doing this knowing that we've got a lot of interested parties, but I also know that they all have some growth expectations, and I would like to accommodate those. I think my contention is still that I think we need a little bit of help with that, because I quite frankly, when I ask this, I know that I'm being a burden on the staff. And it's not that I don't think you, Brian, are capable, or I don't think Tyler is capable. I just think just having a little bit of more professional outreach to some of the stakeholders to get a feel for what their needs are, some planning and some progress. We bristled at the idea of it costing $100,000 with the Haley Aldrich, I think, at one point. But I do think we need to possibly take a look at it. And I wanted to have that discussion with the commission today and you, Rob, to see if that's is wise. I definitely want to go after EDI funding to make sure that we do this. But to me, if I took an aerial view of the airport and I look down on it and I just see vacant lots and I put an RFP out for whatever vacant lot you have, I think the reaction to that is very different than if you have a well thought out, well planned out, well organized industrial park view that you can show somebody. And we can now start with North Star, add in whoever else we think we need to along the way, incorporate the hangar operations that we just saw. But I just think it needs just a little bit more attention. And I would like to talk to the commission about maybe taking a look at a different kind of approach for that. Again, I just don't want to burden the staff. I know that I'm asking a lot. So my thought is that possibly getting somebody, whenever I discuss this kind of thing with the city, when I talk about it with the county, when I talk to it, to the community foundation, for example, or I talk to interested businesses that may want to come in, the reaction is basically the same. They just don't see the vision, and I think we have an obligation to kind of paint it for them. So I've talked a lot, and I'll leave it at that and see if you guys have any comments on that. And I've sent out a summary of what I just said to everybody. I've made a couple of copies if anybody here wants to take a look at them. But it's basically that. It's let's take a real hard look at the airport and do it right. I also want this to be a model for how we look at the other areas on the port that we're going to be doing these kind of open houses, open sessions, customer feedback loops for. So with that, Commissioner Shepard.
Yes. So.
Or if you want to table this and let it soak in.
Yeah, I think this is probably something we'll need to come back to. You know, I thought we had some good actionable items come out of the work session on the airport. I enjoyed the process. I thought it was, you know, we didn't have enough time to dig into all the issues. You know, you brought up like the tribe wants to see some road connection on Cope or Wynn Road. We didn't get to that. There were a number of things we didn't get to that I think we can keep exploring. But I feel like we did give pretty clear direction on one piece of that business development plan. investigating opportunities for Commerce Grant, and if not, using internal funds to do that business planning. And I think that's a big piece of it that would really help to get some of those interests that you have underway. That's going to take a little bit of time, and I'd like at least to get some feedback on how possible it is to get that grant assistance and what kind of timeline we would be looking at. But I think we're on the same page. We want to see activation of the airport. We want to see aeronautical use out there. We recognize it as a great asset. But I did think that the process we went through was helpful in allowing us to have that exploration of that topic. And I don't necessarily feel the need to invest in a different facilitator that costs additional money at this time. So I'm open to having another session focused on the airport. I think it's a good model for also replicating at the other port properties. It's just nice to have a different setting than here for having those conversations. We've said it before, having exploratory or idea sessions is not always as easy when you're being live streamed on YouTube. And doing that at the the Holiday Inn with community partners present, I felt was really productive. So I would like us to see more of those. If we want to do another focused on the airport, I think that's a great place to start.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yeah, I don't know if now's the time to be doing. We've already gone through most of what you talked about, with the exception of the tribal stuff. And I do believe that if we're going to do some more talking about this stuff, it needs to be done in the right format, and that would be in a meeting like we held at the airport. And that's all I have.
Yeah, so let's just get another one on the calendar and run with it. I'm fine with that.
And I just passed this document on to the commissioners and the directors, so you now have this in your email. Just please don't reply all.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thanks. I'm better served when I put it in writing. Otherwise, that's all I've got. Anything else, commissioners? Meeting adjourned.